Unit 9, Similarity. Similarity is actually something we've already been doing in the last unit with the dilations. Dilating something makes objects similar. But we need to first talk about, well, what's the difference between similarity versus congruence? Congruence, the definition is when one figure can be mapped onto the other through a sequence of rigid motions. Rigid means like stiff motions, like I'm shifting something left, right, up, or down as their translations. I'm reflecting it across an axis. I'm rotating it 90 degrees, 270 degrees. All of those things don't change the actual shape of the object, so they're still congruent. They're the exact same thing. Versus similarity is all of those transformations plus dilations. So now dilating something, shrinking it, or enlarging it is going to change its scale factor, and so it's got a relationship, but it's not exactly equal. It's not congruent. And so number one, we do not have to figure out what mapped figure 1 onto figure 2, but it's asking the two figures blank congruent. So they either are or are not, and you'll have a drop down button to pick the word. But the two figures are not, because these side lengths are not exactly the same. So I can see QN corresponds to LJ. QN is definitely, it's shrunk because non-rigid motions are used to map figure 1 onto figure 2. And then some of the lessons will have you pick a corresponding point. So what corresponds to point L, which is right here? You can see that's where these longer sides come together. So it looks like that would be the same as point Q. All right, number 2, the two figures are congruent because you can see these are the exact same shape. It just looks like some kind of maybe a rotation or something, because only rigid motions are used. What corresponds to angle N? So right here, what angle corresponds to that? I would say I. Kind of a weird angle to pick, but okay, easy enough. And then kind of combining some sections here because this is so simple. It says triangle NOH is congruent to triangle UPC. So that's something we should probably talk about too. I want to make a note of this. Congruence, it's an equal sign with a squiggle line above it. That's the symbol. Similarity is just a little squiggle. It doesn't equal. But because this question is saying the triangles are congruent, the corresponding angles, they just go in order. So angle N corresponds or is congruent to angle U. The second letter is O, and the second letter in this triangle is P. So I could say angle O is going to be congruent or correspond to angle P. And then the last letter, H, that angle corresponds or is congruent to angle C. And then when I'm doing sides, I do like the first two letters, NO, that side length will be congruent to UP, the first two letters. So you go in the same order because this is a statement and it's listed in the correct order so that the triangles really do match up with each other. Then I would do middle letter, last letter, so OH. Oop, I'm like trying to do too much at a time. Okay, OH is congruent to PC. And then you could go N to H first and last letter, or H to N. It doesn't matter. I'll do N. H is congruent to UC. Just make sure you stick in that order. You wouldn't want to say NH and then switch to say CU because you went first letter then third. You don't want to go third then first. You want to stay in the same order.